Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today I kind of want to do a speculation video, but I do think there's a lot of almost evidence here to back my theories, and I feel like, I don't know, and maybe it's just me being an optimist, but man, I feel like the stars are aligning so perfectly, it's almost suspicious, that I feel like we've got a Final Fantasy 16 global first coming, and I'm going to tell you guys why, and I believe the protagonist's name is Clive, so I think that is who I would be expecting to come. Now, there's nothing confirmed on any of this, right? I'm not going off of, like, there's no leak or anything like that. This is just me, like, being a longtime player, looking at the history of the game, how they operate things, and just some things happened in the way things are lining up that are it's almost suspicious in the way, like, how well things are lining up for there to be a global first Final Fantasy 16 character that I thought I would kind of go through my speculation with you guys, kind of explain my quote-unquote evidence or what I'm seeing here that is kind of making me think this, right? So, as you guys know, if you watched my community stream reaction, you watched my poll planning video, I definitely had an eyebrow raised with how quickly some of these characters were coming out. So when I refer to that, this is what I'm looking at here. This is a global visual forecast that we have access to in the community, and what we do, and there's some really great people out there that put these together for us. I believe one is Vash and one is Jake Matt, so they're like two people and they're on Reddit, and they put these out, right? So shout out to them. And what these timelines are great for, and by the way, I keep these timelines in my Discord, so if you want to join my Discord and have access to this there, feel free to do that, but I do have this in my Discord as well. But what basically this is a visual outlook on when characters release based on the JP timeline. And what we know is that characters basically, we're typically about 8 months behind the JP schedule, right? So we can literally lay out and go month by month. If we follow the JP schedule, this is what should be coming up. So right here, we're looking at the month of June. And I'll zoom in. It's going to get really big here. But we'll look at the month of June, right? In the month of June, I mean, it's pretty much playing out as planned. The thing is, though, is we got Edgar and Luna Freya kind of at the end of May, like a little bit early, right? And then Rex now is coming, like right away on May. Rex is coming tonight. So it's May 30th, May 31st. So Rex, you can see all of a sudden is kind of like one step ahead, like a week ahead, right? And then we've got Rem and Vaughn coming, and then we've got Leo and Charlotta coming. The thing was when we went through the community stream slideshow, we go through here, and we've got Iris and Tifa. And so this end character, usually I expect them to be at the very beginning of the month they're listed at, or the last banner in the previous month. So this character, Iris, being listed at July here, if I were just looking at this from a distance, like before the community stream, I would have said, yeah, Iris will probably come out like the first week, like 4th of July week, or maybe like very end of June, like maybe June 29th, June 30th, something like that. That's when I would expect Iris based on the schedule. But Iris is slated in the middle of the month of June, like very early. And then we go to Shantado and Ursula here, right? And Shantado and Ursula, if we look here, I've got a slide here. Dude, Shantado and Ursula are dropping June 22nd. That's very early. Like, we're talking about a character here that is like middle of July, and now they're shooting over to the end of June, right? So if I zoom out here a little bit, make it a little bit easier to see. So we're talking about a character that's right here, and they're shooting them down to here, right? So now it's telling me there's like almost 2 cycles of characters that are open. Now, obviously, something that we can argue is you'll see that there's these characters on the side, right? And these are the campaign characters. And there's one set of campaign characters that I forgot to mention, which is Beatrix and Celis. Now, Beatrix and Celis, I thought was going to come in the month of May. And I thought that they were going to come in that slot that Machina and Hope did. Now, Machina and Hope, that was just a random thing they threw in here. Like, they're not on here anywhere, right? They just tossed them in. So, there is a chance that, Beatrix and Celis could still come. Terra and Maria. Dark Knight, Cecil, and Seven. Right, and then in July, we've got the Sarah Kryl, and we've got Warrior of Light and Lude. Now, there's a couple of possibilities for this big gap, right? One is they're planning to kind of fill in with these campaign banners and maybe eat up the time that way. But the thing is if you guys noticed last month, we had 2 sets of campaign banners, and they were not announced in the community stream, and they did not change the timeline. They just slid in between, right? And if I go to my Discord here, I know I'm going to be jumping around all over the place here, but I'm going to go to my Discord here. But I got to zip. Oh gosh, hold on. Let me go back here. I'm hoping it'll reset. I'm like really deep in the community stream slides. I'm in Mark's Discord, by the way, here. Oh yeah, it's going to be like way back. Sorry, I scrolled a whole bunch. Oh, here, jump to present. Thank you. Click that button. All right, perfect. Yeah, get me back down here. But there's Mark's got a really nice channel on here where Quetz goes ahead and posts all the community stream slides, right? But when I'm looking at these slides here, right, if you guys remember last month, there was like some banners, there was only like a 4-day swing in between, but then there was a couple banners where it was like a 6 or 7 day in between, and they slid the campaign banners in those longer gaps, right? So when we're looking at this here, we've got, so we're going to have, right away, we've got Rex dropping May 31st, and then we've got Rem on June 6th. So that's a 6-day swing, right? So they could definitely say like in the middle of that, like, 3 days or 4 days after Rex, they could slide a campaign banner, right? Then from Rem to Leo, we've got another 6 days. So 6 days to me is a big enough gap. If they wanted to, they could slide a campaign banner in there. Then we've got Iris on the 16th. Now, from Leo to Iris, that's only a 4-day swing. So from the 12th to the 16th. So that tells me they wouldn't do anything in between Leo and Iris. And then we've got from Iris to the Shantado banner, that there's another 6-day swing. So I'm seeing 3 areas, right? Let me go back to the website here, or back to my internet. I see 3 possible spots just built into the schedule we already have where they could slide in these campaign banners. So I don't see why there's any reason they wouldn't just slide those in. Because if it's a campaign big enough to eat up like an entire like slot, like I don't think they would do it with these campaign banners. But you never know. They could do whatever they want, right? So the reason why I'm extra super suspicious, and I'm going to go through like a bunch of it here. One, we're like now 2 to 3 weeks ahead. Like we're really early on stuff. I see us being like a whole half of a month now that we have open that we could put a special campaign in, right? Now, the first thing I got really suspicious about is conveniently they end the community stream with this Shantado banner, which ends on June 22nd. Okay. Now, this is typical. They usually don't show the entire month. They usually like leave the last one off because they base it on when the next community stream is. Well, I think the next community stream, it's going to be like June. He said it. It was like the 22nd or the 23rd. It's like right around the time that this banner drops, right? Well, how convenient is it that on June 23rd, or no, June 22nd, like on this day, is the release date for Final Fantasy 16. Now, we don't have a lot of history. I did research the history of DFFOO and like when Final Fantasy games released. The problem is DFFOO has only been out since 2017, which actually isn't a very long time. And, Final Fantasy games, they don't just drop new Final Fantasy games all the time, right? So there actually hasn't been much that has released since 2017. So since 2017, the 2 big releases would be Final Fantasy VII Remake and then, what is it? Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise, right? Those are the 2 big releases. Well, Final Fantasy VII Remake, we already have Final Fantasy VII characters, so there wasn't really anything hyped to drop there. Now, they ended up dropping Jessie, but Jessie ended up coming like 2 years after the game came out. So it's like, they weren't like trying to promote Remake or anything like that. But Strangers of Paradise, that's a brand new like Final Fantasy title, the type of game you want to promote, right? So because there's so few examples, we don't really have like a trend to say this is what DFFOO will do when a new Final Fantasy game drops, because there isn't a lot of history to go off of. I would say the closest thing to Final Fantasy 16's release to something on that level is Strangers of Paradise. And Strangers of Paradise launched on March 18th. And then on April 28th, Jack Garland launched in JP. So literally 1 month after the game, they did start dropping the character, right? So fairly close to release. And I think that's the smart thing to do, is close to the release of a new hype game, you want to drop a character from the game. So I feel like there's enough precedent there to say, hey, they want to promote their game, they should do something for it. Now, I said this very early on when I found out, when Final Fantasy 16 was coming, but I've been saying, if the devs are smart, they need to promote their new game. And that's part of what the job of a gacha game is. Because what you notice with gacha games, it's not like this gacha game isn't Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 7. Like, it is the Final Fantasy franchise. And the job of this game is, one, to generate its own money, but also it's to promote the franchise, right? For example, I'm a really good example. I literally bought Final Fantasy Type 0 because I like the characters in this game. Before playing DFFOO, I had no idea who the Type 0 characters were. I didn't care about the game. I would have never bought it, but I did because of that, right? We have all the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, right? How much hype did a game like this generate using all these characters from those games and saying, hey, I really like Bart's from Final Fantasy V. I've never played that. Well, now I can go pick up a new remaster of Final Fantasy V and play with Bart's, right? Like, that's what the games do. So if the devs are smart, what do? You use DFFOO to promote Final Fantasy 16. And what better way than to drop a really hyped new character from that new game? It's not only going to generate hype for 16, but it's going to generate a lot of money and hype in DFFOO. So I feel like they would be absolutely foolish not to do it, right? Now, I think a couple of things could happen here. I think this could be a global first. It could be just a JP launch around the same time. I think those are the two most likely, right? They're either going to launch Clive on JP like around this time, or it's going to be a global first in this slot. Now, there's a third thing that could happen that DFFOO has never done before, that DOKKAN does all the time, which is they could do for the first time in DFFOO a joint celebration, where both games get the character at the same time. Now, DFFOO joint celebrations I don't think work as well, because you can't take like the power creep is too heavy in DFFOO, where like you can't take a game that's 8 months ahead and release the same character on both games at the same time, unless they release him with slightly different kits, which I suppose they could do. So like on JP, we would just see like what the next reworked version looks like, and we would get them here. I think that's very not likely just because of the way the games operate, right? But back to this. This is why it's like so suspicious to me. It's like, dude, Ursula's dropping on June 22nd, which means it's leaving it open so that when they do the community stream on like the 23rd to 24th, whatever, the first thing they're going to announce is the next character after this. And what I'm going to show you is a few images here from previous community streams, okay? This is the 5th year community stream slide when they announced Penelo. Guess what slide Penelo was in that presentation? Penelo was the very first slide in the presentation and the first character that came out in that cycle. The reason why is they want to lead with the hypeness, and they want to have that new hype character come out right away after the community stream. Every time they've done a global first, for the most part, they have been announced. Like, one exception would be like year 3, because like Vincent was like an unknown secret one, but like both year I believe did lead the year 3. Now I didn't go that far back here, but like the slideshow led with Penelo, and Penelo dropped. We look at year 4. Garnet led the slideshow. She was like the first set of slides in there. Garnet was the first thing that dropped in that situation, right? Now let me do a situation that would more closely relate to what we have here. And that would be Core. So Core, this was like an out of nowhere global first. It wasn't an anniversary release. It was just kind of in the middle. We weren't expecting it. Now, a couple of things about Core's initial release really gets me excited and optimistic for this, right? Because one, it was kind of just out of nowhere in the middle. But if we look at it here, Core dropped in July. Okay, so this was a summer release, and it was a global first. And like the other ones, Core led the slideshow. He was the first slide there and the first character to release in that set of community stream slides. So to me, what's happening here is this is lining up so perfect that we are ending on the Shantado Ursula banner several weeks ahead of schedule. The next community stream. So, and what would happen is Final Fantasy 16 will release, right? But it's going to be out for like a week or two. And then bam, you drop the character to really generate the hype. I feel like it just makes too much sense. Sure, this could all be a coincidence. This could just be my blind optimism coming through, right? Because I would be really excited and hyped for it. And you guys have seen, this would catch people because you guys have seen in my Should You Pull video, June is pretty stacked. And we've got Astos coming, I believe, in July. So, dude, people's wallets could be very dry. And if they just drop Clive on us, it's going to want people to pull. Like, people are going to be spending money for Clive. So I feel like it makes too much sense. I feel like the stars are aligning too well. And as a matter of fact, that I feel like the chances are actually very high for a global first Final Fantasy 16 character coming, I think, probably the last week of June, like literally the week following the release or a few days. after the release of 16, I think that character could be dropping on global. So you guys let me know if you think I'm absolutely crazy. There's absolutely no chance this is going to happen. Or let me know if I'm kind of getting you thinking a little bit. Maybe there's a little something to this. Maybe it could happen. I don't know. I'm not making any guarantees, you guys. But I'm feeling pretty good that we might have something crazy coming. Next community stream, we're going to keep our eyes out. But do not be surprised if we see FF16 leading the slideshow on the next community stream. So anyways, let me know what you all think. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.